Luke 15. The context of Luke 15. It's not the prodigal son. The context of Luke 15 is that God loves sinners.
Jesus makes the difference.
Salvador is known throughout Brazil for having a vibrant, unique culture. It boasts the fourth largest population in Brazil, with almost 3 million people. The Adventist Church has experienced significant growth here, with churches scattered throughout Salvador. Despite the strong Adventist presence, there are still unentered areas of the city. Global Mission is working to identify areas with no Adventist presence and establish new congregations there. Josenildo's neighborhood is one of these unentered areas. He was known as a drunk nuisance, whose bad habits disrupted his family life and the whole community. Arivaldo, an Adventist, lived nearby and ran into Josenildo often on his way to work. Arivaldo knew he was looking for work, so he offered him a construction job, building churches. It didn't take long for the two of them to become friends. Arivaldo treated him with respect, which made Josenildo wonder why he was always so kind. Over time, Arivaldo asked if he was interested in Bible studies, and the two began reading the Bible together.
Before I met Jesus, I didn't have happiness. When I came to know Jesus, my life was transformed. And today, for God's glory, I am happy. My family also was transformed.
Josenildo was baptized and changed for the better. Even his neighbors took notice of his transformation. When the usual loud music from his home stopped one day, everyone wondered if he was okay. When they checked on him, they saw that Josenildo was a changed man. He spoke kindly to them and treated them respectfully. And they wanted to know what inspired these changes in his life. Josenildo used this opportunity to minister to his neighbors. Every Friday night, they gather in his living room to talk about their week. They bring their concerns, requests, and praises here. Josenildo points them to the Bible, showing them a Creator who cares deeply about them. There's even something for the children, as Josenildo's daughter leads an activity in the hallway. This group has grown close, and as a result, 10 people have already been baptized this past year, and more are studying for baptism. Small groups like this one are the core of church planting in Salvador. Small groups develop into congregations, and these congregations divide into more small groups that spread throughout the city. Nearly 5 years ago, the church leadership in Salvador State had an ambitious goal of building 1,000 churches in 5 years. They reached their goal, and the final church is being built where a new congregation will worship soon. The goal of building 1,000 churches across the state isn't just for the purpose of having new buildings. The church buildings represent ever-growing congregations of believers who, like Josenildo, have been changed by Jesus.
Jesus é bom.
Jesus is good. Jesus transforms. Just as He transformed my life, He can transform anyone's life.
No matter the struggle someone may face, Jesus has the power to transform their life. And more lives are impacted as churches are planted throughout the world. Thank you for helping us change lives by supporting church planting through Global Mission. With Bibles in hand, this church planting duo began exploring their new community, introducing themselves to neighbors, and hoping to connect with them. They knew sharing the Adventist message in a city like Lima could be challenging. With a population of almost 10 million people, Peru's capital is one of South America's largest and busiest cities. As in many other urban areas, people are often busy, and interest in religion is fading. There was no Seventh-day Adventist congregation in this part of the city until a local Adventist family took the initiative to start one. First, they began meeting for worship in their home and invited their neighbors to join them. Then they invited theology students from the Adventist University in Lima to come preach in the streets. This event stirred up a lot of interest in the community. As the family spoke more and more with their neighbors, they realized there were many needs. They recruited other Adventists in Lima and arranged a health expo for the community. People appreciated the compassion and genuine care they encountered. Soon after the first health expo, Dina and Kataring were called to serve full-time through the 1000 Missionary movement, an initiative started and supported by several of the Adventist Church's world divisions. When Dina and Kataring first knocked on Abigail's door, they asked if they could pray with her. Abigail gladly accepted their invitation, and the girls returned each day for prayer. After a few doorway prayers, Abigail invited them inside, where Dina and Kataring offered her Bible studies. With each visit, the girls noticed how Abigail struggled to maintain her home. She was having a difficult pregnancy at the time and had another child to care for. She often didn't feel well enough to keep up with household chores. Dina and Kataring eagerly began to help. They assisted Abigail by cleaning, cooking, and taking her child to school. Adventist church members in Lima also gathered food to give to the family. Their acts of kindness showed Abigail the love of Jesus. It's been several months, and Abigail still looks forward to the weekly Bible studies. She's just one of 40 community members whom Dina and Kataring visit regularly. Through Christ's method, Dina and Kataring have helped plant a new church in this neighborhood where about 30 people worship each Sabbath. Please pray for church planters like Dina and Kataring, who are on the front lines of mission. pray for strength and compassion as they continue to reach others for Christ. Thank you for supporting Adventist Mission.
In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is asked the question, "Which is the greatest commandment?" He answered, "Love God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself." And then again, at the Last Supper, he says the same thing, but with a twist. "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples." This time, Jesus replaced your neighbor with one another. This new love that Christ commands of us goes much deeper than the Old Testament commandment he was quoting in Matthew. The people we have been commanded to love has expanded beyond our neighborhoods to include, well, everyone. And this includes people who might make this commandment a bit difficult, like that confrontational coworker who just seems impossible to get along with, or your in-laws who've never treated you like a part of the family, or maybe the person you just met, who you don't even know and really need some help. You see, Jesus knew his physical time on earth was nearing an end. So in this new take on the old commandment, Jesus also made another change. The words "as yourself" became "as I have loved you." Wow, that's a tough act to follow. Christ's sacrificial life provides a clear and concrete example of real and true love. And he put this love on display on a daily basis with his disciples. He was patient with them, speaking kindly and showing great concern for their welfare. He instructed, counseled, and comforted them, prayed with them and for them. He admonished them for wrongdoing, and yet compassionately bore with their failings. And most of all, he gave his life, dying so that they and we might live. According to Jesus, this is how others will know that you are one of his followers, not because you have a shirt or a bumper sticker that says so. Not because we announce it from a stage or a blog or a status update, but because they look at you, at how you live, the things you do and say, and they see Jesus. They see love.
It's true that God does reveal himself to us, and I'm glad he makes himself known. But have you considered how God makes himself known to us through history? History reveals to us how God really acts and what God is like. For instance, in Acts chapter 14 and verse 17, we find he is the God who not only produces rain, but he also produces our food that we eat. We can count on him. He is a God also that gets angry in Psalm 78 and verse 13. He is a God also in verse 21 of that same chapter who controls nature. He's also the one in verse 26 who loves us dearly. Not only that, but then he did the biggest act by sending himself through Jesus. The greatest revelation of God is through Christ himself. I understand why he says, if I be lifted up, all men will be drawn to me. It is Jesus, the clearest picture yet of God. You know what I want to ask you? Have you got with Jesus yet so you really can know who God is? Why don't you come to him? He has the best picture of God you could ever see or take.
We sing the song with Jesus and the family, Happy, Happy Home, but is our home really a happy place?
Today on Real Family Talk, we'll share ways you can make your home a happy place. Join us.
today's edition of Real Family Talk, we're answering questions from viewers like you. Here's the first question. I'm a recently divorced mom of 3 children, ages 13, 8, and 5. I find that for the most part, I'm just tired and upset all the time. I'm feeling the pressure of trying to keep everything together, and I sometimes yell at the children out of frustration. I feel badly for my kids and don't want to take out my frustration on them. How do I maintain a happy home when it seems like our world has been turned upside down? Wow.
Wow. Yeah, you can feel the pain, and we feel the pain of this viewer and all those who go through the pain of divorce. Divorce is a complete upheaval of your life and everything you've known. It is a loss of dreams and hopes for the future of your family. However, it is possible to move forward and maintain a happy home, as the viewer asked in the question.
You know, while God intended that marriage should last forever, sometimes marriage doesn't. Yet, God still has the power to heal our brokenness and restore our homes. The truth is, God has given us the capacity to be resilient. Resilience is the ability to survive and thrive even in the midst of difficult times.
While we strongly recommend that you speak with a pastoral counselor and your children as well, we'd like to share the following tips with you to help begin again to restore peace, grace, and happiness in your home.
As we begin to share with you, the first thing we would say is, number 1, pray. Pray and ask God for peace, for grace, and for joy. The Bible tells us, do not be anxious for anything. And for those of you who are really interested in knowing where to find that, that is in the book of Philippians chapter 4 and verse 6. Do not be anxious for anything.
Number 2, practice the PPC. What is the PPC? The PPC is pause, pray, and choose. And we want to encourage you to learn this technique and teach it to your children. Make it a rule in your house that before everyone speaks or before you respond, you will pause, you will pray, and you will choose a response that will maintain peace in the home.
One of the reasons why the PPC is so important, and I just want to stay on it just a little bit more, is because usually when we respond out of frustration because someone said something we didn't like. So pause. Instead of responding while you're frustrated and angry, pause. Take a deep breath and allow oxygen to come to your brain so you can think better and respond in a better way. And as Elaine already said, choose a response that will build up your relationship, whether it's with your children or with your spouse. And in this case, there's no spouse anymore because there's been a divorce. The next point is stay positive. During this time, it is easy to think negative thoughts, especially when you are tired and frustrated and you feel like you've been dealt a bad hand in life. Just remember that you want to create a happy home environment for you and your children. So override negative thoughts with positive thoughts. And don't say negative things to them about their dad, because it creates a negative environment in your home. And you don't want to pass on those negative feelings to your children because it will affect them in the days ahead. Stay positive.
Yeah, and this is one of the most critical issues here in divorce cases, because there's so much hurt and there's so much pain. And the person who's been left with the children often feels like a victim and they feel taken for granted. And so the pain is very deep. And so we don't want to underestimate that the pain is very deep, the grief is very deep. And so it's natural to feel anger towards the person and resentment who left you in this situation, who turned your world upside down.
But you know, I just wanted to add, because I love the imagery that you're coming up with, and that is, you know, marriage is like having two hands. You know, sometimes when you were a kid and you had to take a pail of water someplace and you'll be carrying it and then your hand will get tired and then you'll switch to the other hand.
Yeah.
That's how marriage is.
Yeah.
That's why God gave us a mom and a dad. That is God's plan. And that plan is so that no one gets overly tired.
Right.
But when there's divorce, that help is gone away.
Absolutely.
And if you're the parent, the custodial parent that keeps the children, then what really happens is you feel dumped on. You feel that you can never catch a rest because you only have one hand. And when that hand gets tired, you have to keep carrying the load in that hand. That is the problem with divorce. And that is not God's plan.
Right, right. And so I wanted to add to that, because to take it even further, how the children are impacted by this. And so the children internalize the feelings of the custodial parent. And so the viewer is asking, how do we maintain a happy home? So obviously, she's very interested in maintaining peace in her home. So it's very critical that you keep a positive attitude and don't allow the negative towards the dad to pass on. Praise and affirm your children more. Your children are going through a lot as well. Their worlds have been turned upside down. And while they may not say it, they are carrying your grief as well as their own. So the less you nag or yell at them and the more you praise and affirm them for their efforts, the brighter and happier and more constructive your family environment will be.
Be intentional. Set the pace and create the type of environment you want for your home and for your children. Maintain as many of the old rituals that you can, or create new ones with them so they feel comfortable and secure.
Finally, hold each other close. Your children need your warmth right now and for the rest of their lives. And you need their warmth. Warmth in the family is essential, and it serves as a protective factor. It creates a sense of belonging and makes your children feel loved. When children are experiencing the divorce of their parents, they begin to blame themselves, and they feel that perhaps it was something that they did that caused this to happen. And so we want to be sure that we're conveying to them that it's not their fault and that you still love them. This is especially important for teens who may act as if they don't need hugs.
But they do, and they always do. But they're hurt, and they're trying to protect that hurt.
Absolutely. We'll be back after a short break. Stay with us.
It's interesting when we look at the book of the Old Testament. We see Moses in the book of Exodus as he writes. Moses asks God, tell me the name that I should tell the children of Israel. And hear what the scripture says. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. That is beautiful, because when you read the Hebrew text, it says that I am statement, it means a self-existent one, the one that was not created, the one that was not formed, nor shaped, nor came into being. He is just the I am. And this shows us that God wanted to send a signal to the children of Israel that I am means that I'll be to you everything. I'll be your everything. I'll be your sustainer and your life. I'll be the one to you that to carry you through the wilderness to the ends of the earth. And Jesus wants to say to you today that whatever situation you are going through, He is the I am to keep you. And so whatever the problem, whatever the struggle, whatever the situation, the marital problem, or children's getting on your nerve every morning, in the evening, you can't get a break, I want you to look to the I am. He was not created or formed. He sees and knows exactly what you're going through because He is God. He is not limited or being confined in a box to what He can be to you. So trust Him, because this situation is not a surprise to Him.
Where's publish at?
Mercy.
Woo!